And we look at these ecosystems in particular because they sequester carbon from the atmosphere and they're also storing it in their plants and soils, and that has a role in global climate change mitigation. And so even though the global extent of these ecosystems is less than what's found in terrestrial forests, these ecosystems still provide a significant carbon sink. And on a per unit area, they actually sequester a greater concentration of carbon, and that's what makes them such an interesting subject for study and for projects in climate change mitigation. So the next slide, please. So what is the Blue Carbon Initiative? If it hasn't popped up on your radar before, this is a global coordinated program that's focused on mitigating climate change through ecosystem restoration and conservation. And I suppose you could say the headquarters of the Secretariat are at Conservation International, headquarters just outside of Washington, D.C. But the initiative is actually a three-way partnership between Conservation International, IUCN, and the Oceanic Research Division of UNESCO in turn. So what does the initiative do? On the next slide, it's actually engaged in a variety of things throughout the year. A foster collaboration between research institutions, government, nonprofits, and the NGO and IGO community. They pose research questions, identify gaps in research, and then collaborate on writing papers, going out into the field, and basically answering all of these research needs. They have been successful in raising the profile of blue carbon internationally. They are developing some practical tools, and examples of that are a website that's going to be launched early in the new year, I believe, that's meant to be as a platform for blue carbon practitioners and policymakers to come together. Another tool that they're working on is a manual of blue carbon definitions and a field guide for practitioners to use when they're working in the field. They also convene two working groups, a policy working group and a scientific working group, twice a year, and this is a time for everyone involved in the Blue Carbon Initiative to come, have a nice face-to-face over a 2 or 3 day period, share what they've been working on, identify some of these research questions, and make plans for moving forward on how they will continue to work on blue carbon issues. So moving on to the next slide, the scope of this research, given the foundational work that has already been done by the working groups, field projects are the next logical step in moving blue carbon forward. So just to back that up, I mean that there's been a lot of there's been quite a lot of research done. There's been some policy done, and now the next. Sorry, there's different. The next thing will be to have field projects going on. And so to support that, this research is generating a survey of what's currently going on, assessing the blue carbon field activities already, and then also looking at these projects and asking what makes it a blue carbon project, why is it a blue carbon project, maybe it's not actually a blue carbon project, and then simultaneously the research expands the network of people involved in blue carbon specific things. And all of this research is sort of with an eye towards the Blue Carbon Initiative's working groups finding and supporting and or developing their own projects moving forward. So the next slide, please. Findings. So an initial assumption was made that some practitioners out there might be doing conservation in one of these blue carbon ecosystems, so either the seagrasses, salt marshes, or mangroves, but they actually might not be addressing climate change mitigation or the value of those ecosystems for their role in climate change. So Emily and I sat down and had this thought that some people might be saying they're doing blue carbon, but is it really a blue carbon project? So that was kind of the initial hypothesis or guess that we had going into it. So the next slide, please. Findings continue. So during this research, I was able to identify sort of two key research outcomes. The first one is that there really is not a uniform or agreed upon definition about what a blue carbon project is. And that is evidenced by the second key finding, which is that there's really a spectrum or range of different levels of blue carbon field activities. So what I did in this research is that I looked at the aspects of every project that I surveyed, and then I was able to sort of cluster them into these four sort of rough or approximate categories, just to help organize them slightly better and understand what the blue carbon project, what activities are going on. So the first one would be something kind of called blue carbon washed, which is based on the initial assumption that practitioners might be engaging in conservation, which is great, but it might not actually have a mitigation focus. The second would be research activities, and this is not necessarily a demonstration project of conservation in a blue carbon ecosystem, but it is an active project that's supporting important research goals in blue carbon areas. Examples of this would be mapping current ecosystem coverage, conducting inventories of carbon stocks, building predictive models to forecast how much of the carbon sink might be lost over time if a certain rate of ecosystem loss continues. Other activities would include collecting data about the habitat, such as the biodiversity found there, specific species, tidal fluctuations and movements, and external influences such as pollution. So those are some of the things that would be going on under these categories of research activities. The third would be number 3 is ecosystem services projects. And this is projects found in this category are broad projects that are conserving and or restoring an ecosystem for really the full suite of ecosystem services that you would probably be familiar with, such as including the value of the ecosystem as a carbon sink and its role in sequestering carbon. But it also looks beyond that and looks at livelihoods, water quality, some of the other things associated with ecosystem services. And I found that with these types of projects, there usually is a plan in place to do some sort of payment for ecosystem service scheme, and then infuse that money back into project management and community development, which I thought was a neat aspect. The last one, sort of the true blue carbon conservation and or restoration project, is of any project that is doing conservation and or restoration in the blue carbon ecosystem, and it's primarily for its value in mitigating climate change. So for both keeping the carbon that's already accumulated in the plants and soils, keeping that already stored, and then sequestering additional carbon. And another key aspect of these number 4 types of projects is that they will be financed for its role in global climate change mitigation. So definitely between 3 and 4, between the ecosystem projects that are ecosystem service based and projects that are blue carbon based, I think there's definitely a gray area and there's a lot of overlap. And I think depending on your perspective, whether you're a scientist or a policy person or a field practitioner, and the experience that you bring to it, it can be hard to distinguish at times. But just as sort of the guide that I try to adhere to and share with the working groups is that whether or not the project was actually motivated by climate change mitigation, and if that was the full sort of focus of the project. So moving on to the next slide. This is a map that I generated of the geographic distribution of the project. And so overall, I looked at 33 projects, and this map identifies the location of 27 of them. And 27 mainly because some of the other projects are just very, very preliminary, and there isn't anything to share on them yet. So this map is sort of is intended to be a working map, a working GIS that will grow and expand over time. But this is just sort of the initial layout of where things are. And they're coded according to type. And you might notice if you look at the project type key that I actually didn't find any category 1 projects with the blue carbon wash, which I think is probably a good thing. But I did keep that in the section that I shared in the previous slide, just sort of as a reference point to convey to people what the full range of projects could be. In blue carbon. And one thing that I didn't say at the beginning, but I'll definitely iterate now, is that this entire survey is by no means intended to be a comprehensive survey. There are certainly many other projects that are going on, and this work that I've done is really just a starting point to get a sort of a baseline understanding of what's going on, and I will be working on it to build on it some, as well other members of the Blue Carbon Initiative will be building on it over time as more projects come online. And then one other thing before we move away from the map is that you might notice that there are several projects in Indonesia, and that's just sort of an interesting thing that I came across in talking with the various groups such as yourselves working in Indonesia. There just seems to be a lot of activity and interest by a full range of groups, whether it's NGOs, local groups, the government, etc. So I think it'll be interesting to see how some of these projects in Indonesia develop, since just by a quick snapshot of this map, it looks like Indonesia might be sort of a hub of blue carbon activities. So moving on to the next slide, please. I'll go into and give sort of a few examples of the actual project.
Slide 9, right, Allison?
Yes, slide 9, please.
Okay.
Thank you. And also, I'll take a moment right now and say that this presentation is basically sort of the highlights of a much longer and detailed report that I have written for the Blue Carbon Initiative. And that report is currently right now in draft phase, and it will be distributed widely once it is complete and finalized. And I'd be happy to share that with everyone on this call, and please feel free to share it beyond yourselves as well. So these are just sort of a sample of the projects that will be in the report, and in the report will have a more detailed description of each project. So in case if you're wondering in the back of your mind what else is there, there is much more behind this work. So the first one that we'll look at is a seagrasses project in Brazil. It's a type 2 project, so it's advancing the scientific research. Essentially, what it is doing is there's a group in Brazil, and they're carrying out field work in seagrass meadows. They've been collecting biomass and below-ground soil samples, and they're actually working with a member of the Blue Carbon Initiative's scientific working group, who is based at a research institution in the United States, and they're working with him to have a lab setting so that they can analyze the samples, and they're looking at carbon content. And then what they'll use that information for is basically to build the scientific case that seagrasses are good carbon sinks. So this project isn't necessarily doing any conservation or restoration, but it is advancing the knowledge that we have about seagrasses. So that's that. The next one, slide 10, is a mangroves project in Madagascar. And this is a type 3 project, and so falling under ecosystem services sites. And this is an interesting organization. I don't know if anyone's aware of it, but it's a group called Blue Ventures. And some of their work links community health and conservation, so they have some interesting crossovers in the conservation arena. So what they're doing here are developing pilot sites for comprehensive restoration and conservation projects, and they are going to be using payments through ecosystem service schemes to finance that over the medium and long term. And I've included a picture here of what the degraded mangrove sites look like down in their project site. Some of the poachers in their ecosystem and their community have been overharvesting the mangrove for charcoal and construction. Did we just lose a couple of people, or are we still good? Okay. So moving on to slide 11, please. The second slide of the project in Mangroves, in Madagascar. And so just to describe the activities that are going on, they're doing some mapping of the extent and type of mangroves there. They're looking at changes in coverage between the site visits. They've been taking soil samples. They've been working to advance methodologies for measuring the carbon stocks there. So in addition to the actual restoration that they're doing, they're also doing a lot of additional activities. And there's also a lot of community engagement involved in this project. They're having workshops and focus groups with members of the local community to learn what role the mangroves have in the socioeconomic life of the community, and then make sure that people's livelihoods are able to be still intact. So the fieldwork and community engagement here is going to be going on for the next couple of years. And some of the goals that they have in this project, again, are to improve the livelihood of the people who are relying on mangroves, and just sort of doing that by establishing some tolerable, sustainable limits for harvesting mangroves as well as planting in other areas, so people can have timber as a harvest without taking the rules from mangrove sites. We're doing actual restoration as well, and that will increase not only the carbon storage potential of that ecosystem, but also some other benefits that I posted, such as the shoreline and flooding protection and increasing productive fisheries, which will again feed into these people's livelihood success. Moving on to another project on slide 12, please. This is another mangrove project. This one is located in Kenya. This is a Type 4, so a blue carbon project. This is one of the, it was a very interesting project that I was able to survey. It's in the Gazi Bay area, and through the conversations that I had with many people, this project sort of resurfaced a few times, which I thought was a good sign, since it's a good model to follow. So it's good to have the information out there and sort of the sphere of blue carbon. As this is sort of a good model to follow. So what we have here is a group of different academic institutions, regional and local groups in Kenya. There's a number of the Blue Carbon Scientific Working Group, and they're looking at intact and also degraded mangrove sites. And the purpose of this project is to channel financing towards the protection and restoration of mangroves there, and then also to serve as a model for mangrove conservation elsewhere in Kenya. So if we move to slide 13, please. Some of the activities that are going on there are conducting carbon inventories. They're planting alternative sources of timber to allow the restored mangrove site to come to maturity without taking away from the economic livelihood there. They are doing a lot of capacity building for sort of the improved ecosystem management over the long term, as well as the mapping activities. This project is looking to actually generate carbon offset credits early in next year in 2013. And one of the goals of this organization is not only to infuse the money back into project maintenance, but also to use the additional funds for community services such as education and healthcare. So that's, I think, is a good example of a comprehensive project that's looking at the community development, but it's also doing conservation and restoration that is specifically motivated by climate change mitigation. We can move to slide 14, please. I wanted to highlight something in tidal marshes there, and also from the United States. So this is in the New England area of the United States, north of New York in the state of Massachusetts. This is another Type 4, so a blue carbon project. And this is a project with some various government agencies as well as research institutions. And the goal here is for tidal marsh conservation for its carbon storage abilities, and then also to be able to finance the project sustainably for that climate change mitigation. So some of the things that they're doing here are measuring the greenhouse gas exchanges. And one of the really interesting things that's going on in this project is that it's already well known that tidal marshes are a invaluable carbon sink. But what's going on in this marsh in particular is that there are excess nitrogen runoff. There's an excess of nitrogen runoff, and so that's actually generating a net emission, even despite the carbon storage there. So what they're doing are evaluating options that include nitrogen removal as part of a restoration plan. And so that's a pretty interesting piece of research, that nitrogen is coming from runoff pollution, and runoff pollution of marshes is a problem elsewhere in the United States, and it is in many other parts of the world. So I think as this project develops and moves through time, it'll be an interesting model to follow to how you can still do coastal conservation while looking at other factors such as pollution that are sort of causing a flux in your net greenhouse gas exchange.
Allison, just to make sure that we have enough time for discussion, how much time do you think you need still for the presentation?
I have two more projects to discuss. I can move a little quicker, actually.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Just to have enough time for questions.
Of course, yes, sure, thank you. So just to wrap up this one in Massachusetts, one of the interesting things that will be an output is actually a predictive model that on-the-ground practitioners can use. That they'll be able to input certain parameters about what type of ecosystem they have, how large it is, what are some of the factors affecting it, i.e. water quality and such, and then they'll be able to generate a number or a figure about how many credits they'll need to actually finance the project. So once that becomes live, that'll be another thing that can be scaled out regionally to different scales, and I think usable elsewhere globally. So moving to Project 15, and I'll skip 15 because it's quite similar to number 17. So numbers, if we go to slide 17, please. This is a Mangroves project that's going on in India, and this is a blue carbon Sunderban region, and it's being carried out by an NGO based out of Paris called Livelihood. And an interesting thing that they do is they only work with local partners. They are only looking at restoration, so no conservation there. So just looking at degraded sites. And all of the money that is generated, they infuse directly into community development. So there's an interesting play between the community development aspect and the conservation that's motivated by climate change mitigation. So if you move to slide 18, the area where they're working is sort of inherently complex. It's very remote, it's very impoverished, and it's actually quite a dangerous area. The women of the community are the primary fishers, and apparently the area where they have to fish, because the mangroves are so degraded, their shellfish population, they have to wade out into farther and deeper waters where there are, I believe, crocodiles. The person that I spoke with shared that with me. So there are just some interesting dynamics going on there that really necessitate several reasons for them to do mangrove restoration. So they've done a lot of community involvement. They are doing mangrove restoration. They are returning the shellfish population. They're increasing the economic opportunity for people there, as well as generating an improved store for blue carbon in the mangrove soil and plants. And just to discuss this project, they are expecting to have carbon credits for sale in 2013. So the last slide is slide 19. So just sort of to wrap up, what's going on? Sort of what are the next steps? So this research was shared with focal points from the research, such as Julio. Thank you for contributing. And also I shared it with the scientific working group, which met back in October. There is a report that I mentioned that's being generated, and the information will just be disseminated widely. And sort of long term, the whole goal of this is to use this baseline information about what's going on to facilitate and coordinate more field activities to identify projects that the initiative might be able to support, and sort of to inform this broad discussion about, now that we know what types of activities are going on out there, which ones do we actually want to say, yes, they're a blue carbon project, no, it's not a blue carbon project. You want to continue to add to this inventory of projects. And another next step, which is not listed but is sort of since started evolving, is perhaps putting together some best practices guides that field practitioners can use, so that when they are developing these projects, they're sort of adhering to best practices so that the projects will be sustainable and successful. So that's the overall, the sort of baseline presentation of what's going on out there. So I think now we're moving on to the discussion portion.
Thanks a lot, Allison, for this presentation and for sharing your experience with all these projects. We have been a bit active in advance of this webinar, and we already some of you already put some questions on Huddle, and I think Sibrenne already shared them with you, Allison.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So I just propose that we take at least 10-15 minutes for this. Is everyone comfortable with taking a little bit more time for this webinar? The original planning was until 4 Dutch time, but can we continue until 4:15?
Please answer by chat. I think it's safer.
Yeah.
Fine with me, yes. Okay.
So let's take 15 minutes for questions, and the rest we should probably do. We should probably continue online in Huddle. So Zhang, would you be willing to kick off and ask Allison your question? Zhang? You're probably muted. Otherwise, maybe in the chat. Well, I suppose I could also read them from Huddle. Zhang's question was whether the first question is whether methods are already available for carbon accounting, and the second, what carbon payment schemes are available and are they operating already now? Allison?
Sure. To answer the first part of that question, there are methods available for carbon accounting. They're put out by the Verified Carbon Standard, and they recently this fall they put out and approved guidelines for crediting mangroves. So that's where we are in terms of the ecosystems. There are not yet approved methods for the other ecosystems, but mangroves have been recently approved. And I would probably point you towards the Verified Carbon Standard website to look a little bit further into that. And if you'd like to be connected with someone there, I'm familiar with someone who has actually worked on the mangrove guidelines, so please just let me know, and I'd be happy to make a connection. And then the different carbon payment schemes, none of the projects that I surveyed are actually live in terms of generating carbon credits. They all have the projects that are listed as blue carbon projects are all planning to. Some of them are sooner than later, and it just depends on where they are in the life of their projects. But I think the first ones will probably take place around January or February of 2013.
And these the projects are oh, there's a crack. A lot of noise on the line. Maybe someone is shuffling their papers. Okay. My question was, you say that some credits are already being issued, hopefully early next year. And these will be certified credits, won't they?
There's a mix. Some of them will be certified credits, and some of them will be on the voluntary carbon market.
But the verified carbon standard, that is voluntary, isn't it?
Yes. So they'll just be a mix. But the only ones that will be certified so far will be for mangrove.
Yeah. Okay. I hope that this was enough of an answer. The answer for the first question, at least, whether there are methods available. The second question was whether there are already payment schemes. So let's say the carbon credits that are emerging, they are being paid for, and by whom?
Do you mean payment schemes as in who's funding the projects?
Yes, or the carbon credits.
So there's a variety of funding sources. Sometimes it's government, sometimes it is just a variety of other institutions, sometimes it's grant funding.
Yus, would you like to pose your question to the question you put on Huddle to Allison?
First, I would like to clarify what Allison mentioned about other ecosystem. It is related with the VCS standard. You mentioned that it is available for mangrove, but not for the other. What do you mean with the other ecosystem? Is it seagrass and coral, or I mean, is this related with blue carbon or other ecosystem?
So the other ecosystems would be seagrasses and tidal marshes.
Okay.
And that also.
So it is related with. Yeah, it is. Okay. seagrasses and tidal marshes. Okay.
Julio, you also have a couple of questions. Would you care to ask them now? Julio?
Yes, actually, maybe if you want to read them because I don't have them in front of me.
Okay, I will. It is nicer to have your voice, but okay. The first question.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice. Thank you.
What kind of funding sources have financed the surveyed project?
So there's been a variety of funding sources. Some of them are actually unfunded and are still seeking funding. Some of them are funded by their local government. Some are being funded by research institutions, and a few of them are being funded by the UNDP Small Grants Program. So there's such a variety that it doesn't really one specific funding model yet. I think people are kind of just looking wherever they think that money will be available.
Thank you. So it means that there's still quite a lot of public money involved in this kind of projects.
Precisely, yeah.
The second question is, have any of these projects been developed as part of national RED initiatives? And I think that's really a very good question, because we know that within the whole RED discussion, national strategies are very important, and any project that wants to do something with carbon and carbon credits and climate would have to link somehow to those national strategies.
Precisely. So yes, some of the projects that are being developed have been included into RED Plus initiatives on the national scale. The report actually details which ones are. Off the top of my head, I think that there are a few in some different African countries that are feeding into the RED Plus plan.
So we're getting more and more curious for the report.
Yes.
The third one is, and last question of Julio is, what is the proportion of projects that also incorporate adaptation activities, and that could actually be classified as mitigation adaptation projects?
I would say that the majority of projects are including mitigation and adaptation. Several of them.
Allison, can you repeat?
Oh, sure. Yes, I would say that the majority of the projects are mitigation adaptation activities. Some of them have included things that address water quality. Some of them are including establishing allowable take limits from mangroves. Some of them are expanding the mangrove area to provide more shoreline protection. So a lot of them are looking at sort of the broadest of the projects.
Okay, there was, at least here, there was a lot of noise in the line, but I think you said that actually a lot of projects incorporate both mitigation and adaptation.
Yes, that's correct.
And then, what would you recommend if you were developing? Is it worthwhile into this carbon arena, or should we just stick to adaptation?
I think that it's important to develop projects on sort of this blue carbon platform. I think that over time, more public funding will sort of be channeled more towards blue carbon. Just the more that these people are more aware of it, and it becomes just sort of a higher profile of this program of work that people have that they're involved in. I think the projects that are the most interesting and probably are the ones that are going to be the most successful are the ones that are looking at the full range. So they're taking into account climate change mitigation because of conservation and restoration, but they're also looking at other things like the ecosystem services, the adaptation methods that are being employed. So I think ones that are comprehensive and that include blue carbon are going to be a good way moving forward.
Okay, thanks. And then the final question was by Yus, whether we are only talking about coastal ecosystems or also about ocean and marine systems, blue carbon.
Sure. So we are mainly looking in coastal, so mangrove ecosystems, tidal marshes, and then seagrasses, which are technically I would consider marine, but they're fairly near shore. I think that over time, the ecosystems that we work in for blue carbon might expand to maybe include either kelps or coral reefs or other types of blue carbon. But the reason that we've started with these three is just because they are the ones that are already the best described scientifically. They are already the ones that we know a lot about in terms of research. They're easier to access than, say, some of these other ecosystems. So they just basically provided the best starting point. And of the work that's going on, the tidal marsh areas and the mangroves have the most activity. Seagrasses, I would say, are probably at the bottom of the list in terms of projects and activity that's going on. So I hope that answers the question. So I think what he might have been asking is how is it relevant for the work that Wetlands International does. So I think it is fairly relevant since most of the projects are either in coastal wetlands or mangroves.
Okay, thank you. I think we have to conclude this very interesting discussion, and I would like to encourage you to, if you still have questions, to pose them, to put them on huddle, or to ask them to Allison directly. In turn, I would like, please don't shuffle your papers. It makes noise. Allison, do you also have a question for us?
Sure. So I guess what is everyone's sort of level of interest or involvement in blue carbon in the various offices? I know that I've already spoken with Julio before, but I'd be interested to hear what other people are planning to do with blue carbon, or where your interest came from.
I'd like to answer. Yus, maybe you can give it a go, or Julio, or Misa. Use the
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take a turn before you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think beyond the carbon project that we will develop in Panama, we've been in some discussions with some regional partners about further piloting of blue carbon project. But what I've tried to stress is that there would be a lot of added value from incorporating the adaptation activities to do these sort of hybrid projects. So what we're exploring now is whether we can do some sort of regional initiative, or if it's better to focus country by country, and also start connecting to the RED Plus processes, which are growing a little bit at the moment.
Okay. Allison?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yus, maybe you would like to add anything?
She's multitasking, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
maybe to wrap up, would it be an idea to ask everyone to mention one thing that you take out of this webinar? What is one thing that you learned from the presentation done by Allison that you take with you?
And put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat. Learn from Indonesia, very good. Someone is typing.
Yeah. I think I know Indonesia is the hotspot for the the type of the work at the moment. But then I think we have to make sure that because we did the project on mangrove from long time before, but then how to put it as a blue carbon type of project, for example. So then I think what I learned from this webinar now is how to also align our work into a blue carbon type of project.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Risha.
Oh, that's great, thanks.
Yes. Interesting to see all the different categories, possibilities, a great opportunity for exchange of experiences. Well, sounds like valuable learning insights. Okay, thank you.
Well, good. I'm glad that it was
Yes,
helpful.
thank you. Thank you, Allison. Is this a good moment to go to the next agenda point? Yes?
Yes. Thanks a lot, Allison. We'll keep in touch.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. And I'll be happy to share the report once it's been finalized.
Okay,
Great.
Thanks a lot, Allison.
Bye.
Sure. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the next step is, and thanks everyone for preparing all these questions on Huddle. I think that really was great. It helps to already start thinking up front.
And actually it also helped Allison because I sent the questions to her before and she really changed her presentation because of the questions. So that's also good to know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good to know. The next step is that we are going to have a look at the wrap-up we made, or actually that Vera made, after the face-to-face meeting, and she made actually a list of actions that we all pledged to take. And actually, I saw already on Huddle, and maybe you already saw it too, that there has been quite some activity. And we would like to take a couple of minutes or to discuss where we are, so that everyone knows where we are, and also to make some agreements on what the next steps are and when we are going to take them. So I don't know if everyone has the wrap-up notes on screen, because it would be handy if we can just walk through them. Okay, I see a lot of yeses on the chat. Okay, let's just walk through them. The first pillar is the track record. Well, Vera listed a couple of lines that describe what the track record is, what it consists of. Summarizing that we have a project database, that we have made a timeline, that we discussed the impacts we had, and also lessons learned and stepping stones, and also that it consists of stories. So all these different elements make up a track record. At the bottom of all these bullets, it says action. And I assume that everyone read everything that was above. And if we now focus on action for sake of time, then the first bullet is that Raquel would capture our track record exercise in an electronic form. And, well, she did. Thanks a lot, Raquel. I know it took quite some stepping some hurdles, but you achieved that. And what we actually now need is everyone to have a look at that electronic form and see whether it's complete. And the same counts actually for the project database that we created as a preparation for the face-to-face meeting, and that was also the basis for the timeline and the impact assessment. So please, everyone, have a look at Raquel's track record work and see if you can improve it. Matilda is also already interviewing people to create more stories, and those stories we will also attach them to the track records.
telephone. It's another
Wow,
Beautiful.
that's some atmosphere. That's really a nice phone. Well, so if I would just like to remind everyone that that there is now something on Huddle, and please have a look and check. Oh, Natasha has to go. Thank you, Natasha, for joining us.
Okay, Natasha, bye. We'll be in touch. Thanks. Regarding Huddle, regarding regarding Matilda interviewing, well, some or all of you. Matilda cannot be with us today because at the very day today she is graduating for her master's season, and she has taken the week off, so she hasn't worked with us this week. She's in Sweden, and she's so there was some delay in doing the stories. But I also, the last time I talked with her, I understood that she has not yet been able to make appointments with all of you for interviews. Is that correct? Can you confirm? And do we need to have more appointments made with Matilda?
In the chat, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Yus and Zhang, do you want to be interviewed?
Yes.
Okay. Then you can be in touch with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we still have to continue the interviews. Okay, then I would just like to continue, because I think that the track record it will stay work in progress. So if everyone can have a look and improve it where possible, and then the next step is that Marianne and I will probably, when we are compiling all the outputs from the face-to-face meeting, we'll probably try to bring it one step further, making it into a nice design that we can use for the website or something like that. So if we are at that stage, we will probably ask for your feedback again. So right now, what is important is to have a look: is everything complete? Do you want to add something? And to get your stories shared with Matilda. The next action was about our vision, and there is already a picture of, or a photograph of our vision on Huddle somewhere. And Richard is still going to try to put it in words. He's not here, so we just have to suppose that he's still breathing on a very nice vision. If anyone has ideas already, feel free to put it on Huddle, just to get it going. The next
to remind Richard.
Is someone wanting to do that?
Well, hopefully he will listen to this webinar, because I'm taping it. That might help.
Okay.
Okay. Can we send
the link? Yeah, sure, Julia, we can do that.
Yeah. Okay. We also had these. That was actually the vision was already part of our knowledge sharing exercise, because the idea was that in order to share knowledge in a strategic and logical way, you need to know what you want to work towards, so the vision that you would like to reach, and also you have to know what we already are doing, that's the track record, but also whether we have gaps in knowledge and areas that we need to focus on more. And that was where the conceptual model exercise came in. And Julio, you already shared your conceptual model. Denise has shared the one on climate change and natural hazards. You had the one on agriculture and logging. What's the status of that?
No, I'm still working on this one, and perhaps next week I will submit it.
Great. And then Marijn and Marianne would do aquaculture and fisheries. I think we have to put a reminder there as well.
Yeah.
But at least 2 out of 4 are already online. So again, the ones that are online, feedback is welcome. The better we can make them, the better it is. Yeah, the next action then is that me and Marianne will compile all the rough elements into one compilation document, because we at this point did not see the need for a full-fledged strategy. And we will probably start doing that once all the rough elements are available. So yeah, that will probably start in January. Other loose ends that were mentioned was developing a position paper on blue carbon, and possibly a webinar with Allison, so we can tick the box again. At least for Allison, but for Julio, what about the blue carbon position paper? It's getting silent.
Julio's writing.
Yeah.
Huh? Coming soon?
Yeah.
Coming soon.
And we already started the discussion. And we know, I think the categorization is also quite useful. Should we aim for January, end of January, Julio? Christmas is probably not feasible. Okay, end of January.
Position paper ready?
Yeah. First draft ready? Yeah. New Year gift.
Okay, yeah.
The next action was write a community blog about the field trip. I think Vera has become quite active on that, and the blog is already spread in our global newsletter. So we can also tick the box there.
Oh, but it was not a joint blog, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pity. I would like to know what others think. It's just whether it's like, well, too much ask or not not important enough.
I think Vera suggested earlier that we can still have our joint blog, but is there still appetite for that?
Yeah.
Was that a yes, Jus?
Yeah, I mean, the last blog is more from Vera perception or perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's nice to have from the others also.
Okay.
So don't tick the box yet, Femke.
No, but I mean, at least we can take one box, and I think the whole idea is that we want to continue blogging.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think it would be nice if we can still have our job.
Mm-hmm.
And probably Vera said this was an opportunity for the global newsletter, so that was why it was a bit accelerated.
Yeah.
But we can, if we want a blog, can we agree on how we should do that? A timing and who can lead it? Maybe use as a experienced blogger.
In bahasa Indonesia, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're going to scout us, Jus? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. I mean, I really like to put contribution to blog. My only problem is the language, but I will try to write something. I mean, it's a bit different to write in English and in Indonesian.
Yeah. That's true. But like Bredbenner says, just start with a 5-liner. Just make it short, and if you speak from the heart, then nobody will look at the grammar.
Yeah. And I can you chip in?
Sure.
Hey, and Zhang, how are you? Are you still there?
Sorry?
I'm just checking on Zhang, because I see she's online with us, but she's so quiet.
Ja.
It's gek, hè? She is online.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we should try to continue blogging. Each one of us should take the initiative when it is appropriate. But we can also make use of each other. So use if you have an idea for a blog but need someone to put it in English, nice English language, then we can help you with that. Are you still there? I see that the connection is.
Yeah, it's being worked on.
Yeah. Well, at least we should try to make it jointly. And what about having a blog on the field trip before Christmas? As a Christmas present?
Yeah. Well, in Dutch we would say Santa Claus power.
Yeah, we can try.
Yeah. Okay. Is that comfortable for you, or we can also ask Julio or Raquel or. And actually,
Yeah, I can write something because.
And everyone can contribute. Okay. I'm just waiting for the comments of Raquel. Yeah, Raquel, she says she can try to help use. And Julio probably is scribbling something along these lines. Can contribute a bit. I think we all already shared some of our experiences during the face-to-face meeting. That should also help. And we can post photos and I think also Vera might be able to help out. Let's continue on Huddle. The next action was maybe develop a position paper on aquaculture, but we agreed already in the face-to-face that would be something for the longer run. Raquel would upload the harvest of the World Cafe. I think you did, Raquel, did you? Yes, she already did, which is great. So that's also an element that we will take along in the compilation document. Vera and Richard would harvest the results of the Advocom session. I think their PowerPoint presentations are already on Huddle. And I'm not sure whether they created some notes, but I will make sure that these notes are also in the compilation document on the whole face-to-face meeting. Next webinar, 29 November, that's today. I think we have discussed everything that's in the list. So for me, that's actually if you consider that everyone has been contributing, that we did not really put a deadline. I think we're actually quite far ahead with harvesting all the results from the face-to-face meeting, and I'm really very happy that everyone contributed. Connie flags the issue of did we plan a next webinar already? Raquel, yeah, I think there's a sequence, isn't there? The next one is in 2013, indeed. And I think we will mail around a doodle to plan at least the next two webinars, maybe every 6 weeks. So have a look at your mail and fill in the doodle poll.
Yeah. But do we have a number of topics already for the coming webinars?
Yeah, good question. We have to think about the next topic. Any ideas already?
Wasn't there an idea to invite Marcel at some point?
About carbon, that would be.
Yeah. And invite Femke, indeed. Yeah. Didn't we?
No, but I already had my turn during the face-to-face meeting, huh? So I think what was mentioned during the face-to-face meeting is, it's very interesting, all this mitigation, attention for mitigation. But shouldn't we also talk about adaptation? And Richard actually said that he would be willing to explain much more about adaptation. There is also the topic of these coastal infrastructure developments and urban development, where we did say that that it was very important, but we didn't know a lot about it yet. So maybe we should take some time to then also before Christmas to think about, okay, what are knowledge gaps that we want to address in the next webinar, and who are people that we can invite. That would be very interesting. And if there's already now something that you really feel we really have to deal with this in the next webinar, then please flag it. And if not,
I thought we discussed topics in Bogor, didn't we? No, apparently we did not.
What we did is we flagged using the conceptual model where it was appropriate for wetlands to step in, and where we already had knowledge and where we hadn't. Mm-hmm. So maybe it will also come from the evaluation of the conceptual models. And it might be a good idea if Marijn and Marianne, when we are, or me and Marianne, when we are compiling the whole all the elements together, to make a proposal of topics.
Yeah.
Let everyone vote on what would be most important for now. Shall we agree that? Shall I, together with Marianne, prepare a list of topics, and then invite you to come with suggestions for people that we could invite? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other things we need to discuss now?
Well, I would not mind briefly evaluating how the Skype session went. However, this week I on Huddle with the question, hey, shall I experiment with another technology than Skype? And then we realized, well, good old Skype, and at least we know what the difficulties are with Skype. And I'd like to hear from you once more. Would you be in for experimenting with another technology? Maybe not with outsiders, indeed, but if we have a smaller group, then it could be a good idea to test some other technology. For example, as Bredbenner already suggested, with a telephone plus, good old telephone in combination with chatting online. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a noisy start, but after 15 minutes it went better. So
yeah.
But it's not really dependable, eh?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's indeed test and figure out whether we can have a more dependable solution.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thanks a lot. Good night and good day.
Can I Pemke?
Yeah.
Can I have 1 minute just to say that? Can I have 1 minute?
Yes, of course.
In the webinar, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry.
Starting now.
Yeah, just to give you the information that I am currently in the Banten Bay in our mangrove area, and tonight, and then I am now accompanying a photographer from Italia. So she is now collecting information about blue carbon project in Indonesia, and then she is going to also promote the mangrove project in our area, but with the other scientific journal editor from Italia.
Very nice. Any materials that come out, nice photographs and papers, please share it, huh? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, surely. Yeah.
Any other exciting developments we would like to share? Okay.
Now, well, maybe what I can say, well, that we had Paul and Natasha, and there was not really time, also because of the bad connection, to properly introduce Natasha. But Natasha will be working as a consultant, just like Bredbenner, with Paul on another community of practice on water. So, you know, the word is spreading that there is a community of practice with enthusiastic people that are making some progress, and now it is slowly spreading, including, you know, the working with webinars. Next, in 10 days or so, we will have our general members meeting with all the members. So then we will also have webinars, and we're looking at the use of technology. So I feel also process-wise and the way we communicate better or try to improve our communications and way of working in the network is being followed up in different ways in the organization. And much as we have quite some hurdles and struggles, Skype not being ideal, sometimes trouble with Huddle, but still, I feel we are very much on the right track in using all these technologies and just doing it. So that's what I just wanted to share.
Great. Okay, well, it was very nice meeting you again. Still looking forward to our next face-to-face meeting, but at least this is a good substitute in the meantime. And hope to meet you again on Huddle. And well, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good morning to everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.